of the most important aspects of your website is going to be the main navigation. This is something that people will see on every page of your site, on their entire experience with your website. It's something they're going to see over and over and over again. So we want to make it as clear as possible and as user-friendly as possible. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to add every element you can to a navigation, and at the same time, walk through a few tips and tricks if you're e-commerce, or if you're a consultant, or if you have a portfolio, things like that. So let's begin. The first thing you're going to want to do is, as you can see here, I'm logged into the back end. So you want to make sure you're logged in. You see this menu on the left. That means you're logged in. The first thing we will do here is I am on the home page and I will click edit, or you could just double click into the page. So I'm just going to double click. And now I'm in the editor. You see all these blue lines, these little menus popping up. That means we're in the editor. Now, hover over the main navigation and click Edit Site Header. Once you click on that, this is where everything lives. First, you'll see there's 3 options up here. This is Global Settings, Desktop, Mobile. Here are all the elements. So the first thing we're going to want to do, we are going to upload a logo. So I'm going to click on Site, Title, and Logo. Maybe you've already done this, but I'm going to show you now. I'm going to click here. I already have a logo uploaded here, so I'm just going to add that. And you'll see it's added it in now. From there, you could adjust logo height and mobile logo height, max height. One thing to consider here, if you don't see these options, I don't know if this is still something that hasn't been fixed yet, but if you don't see these options yet, just click out of the page, save, and then let it refresh, and then go back into the editor. For some reason, sometimes it doesn't load those options until you add the logo. As of right now, you see it. So make sure you add the logo. We're going to adjust the height in just a second here, but one thing I do want to recommend is make sure you have a site title here. Default from Squarespace is something like, I think it's your site title. So you want to make sure that's adjusted, because if not, you'll see up here it says Alexandria. Well, it'll say your site title here, and we want to make sure this is relevant and not placeholder text. So we'll fix that. Okay. And now let's adjust logo height and for desktop and mobile. Now, if this is your first time building a website, chances are you may want the logo to be a bit bigger than it should be. I would err on the side of caution for size. Oftentimes, I see new websites make their logo a bit too big. I would recommend even this is too big. So let's play with it. Let's try 70. I think 70 is just about right. Maybe a little bit tinier, but it's just about right. It's probably closer to an upper max for the desktop experience. So for mobile, if I adjust the number here, you don't see any difference. It doesn't trigger any type of response. So what you'll need to do is actually go up here and click on Mobile Preview, and then get back into the editor, and then go back to Site Title and Logo. And then here, if you make adjustments, you'll see it. So it's a bit unfortunate how it's set up, but that is that. And I'm going to go to 50. Let's just say that. It seems like it's pushed over a little bit too much right now. We could figure that out in a different video, but for now, everything is set up. They do have an option here where you could upload a logo just for the mobile experience. So if you just want to upload your icon, maybe your logo is really long or it's really big or it's hard to see on mobile, well, you can upload natively a second logo here and adjust the size as well. But in this case, I'm going to keep everything as it is and go back. Now, let's go back to the desktop experience and click Edit Site Header again. Now we're going to talk about elements. This is where you really can adjust your menu for your experience. So if you're a consultant, highly recommend having a button. If you're e-commerce, highly recommend having a button. If you're a portfolio, you may not need a button. The button may be a little bit too loud. If you're a photographer showing off your portfolio and you're trying to land work, you may add a button. It really depends on the style of work you do and what you're trying to bring to life. Following, you also can add social links, and if you're e-commerce, you definitely want to add a cart. If you don't add the cart, what ends up happening is the cart will just pop up in the bottom right-hand corner if somebody does put something in their cart. But I do recommend putting it in the main navigation. So let's take a look at this all. We're going to add all of the features, walk through it pretty quickly here on what the different options are, and go from there. So for a button, I'm going to turn that on. You'll see I had this default text saved from a previous video I made. Let's just do contact us. And then here, I'm just going to do this. If you want to add a link, if you just type in /, you could link to any of your pages. You do not need to add the entire URL, just /. Whatever page it is will take them to the correct page, and we're good to go. Next is social links. So we will add social links here. You'll see you could adjust the size. Nothing showing up because I don't have any social links. Let's click edit social links. Here you could add links. So I'm going to do this. All right, so we've added Instagram and Facebook. You could add any social links you like. Now let's go back. And here you could see where you could adjust the size. Now, one thing I do want to note is I think there's a lot of spacing in between all of this, and we could adjust that in the design site styles, not here, but somewhere else. So I'm just going to add all the elements in, and then we'll go from there. For now, I think 20 is good. I may actually go to 25. If you click on this, you could just adjust it, and if you hit tab and you click out of it, it'll show you the size. So I actually think 25 is too big. I'll go back to 20, maybe just try 21. Let's just keep it at that for now. All right, the last thing we're going to add is a cart. Again, if you're not doing e-commerce or you're not selling anything, no reason to add a cart. But you could add a cart there. You could adjust the icon size as you like. I think 25 is good. And because of that, if I click in here and I click the up arrow on my keyboard, I could adjust it one at a time and see what it looks like. I feel like 25 is too big. 23. I like keeping whole numbers. I like organized and clean. 23 is a random number, but for now, I'm going to keep it at that. Okay, so let's talk about colors, fixed position, fixed header style. Okay, so these three kind of all work together. Let's talk about colors. First of all, there's transparent. What transparent means is you could see the background for the navigation. Now, there's this interesting relationship between whatever color this section is. So if I click here and I go to colors, and I click light 2, do you see how the navigation just changed? So there's an interesting relationship between the first section of a page and the navigation, especially if you use transparent. So that means on every page, it may possibly look a little bit different. As I click through these, you'll see that it's adjusting and changing as I go, because all of these have different color settings for the main navigation, because right now it's set to transparent, so it's inheriting whatever background settings are for this section. So if you want to play with colors and things, you're going to want to do that here for the main navigation if you use transparent. But let's go back and try a few things out. So first thing is if I click on colors and I click out of transparent, you'll see here it gives me full options on the different styles. So now I'm going to set one style for all pages across my website. So if I change it on the home page, it's going to change it on the about page. If I change it on the about page, it's going to change it on the articles page, whatever that may be. So let me go back, accidentally clicked out. Let me hit colors. So you'll see here, when I start playing with these colors, it'll give me different options, and you'll see how the navigation works and how it will look. So let's say, for example, you really like this style navigation and the look and feel, but you want all these elements to be white instead of black. Well, you could change that in the design site styles, which we'll touch on at the end of the video. But for now, I am going to keep it transparent. And then if I go back, what you'll see here is for fixed position and then fixed header style. Let's click out of this. We're going to hit save and take a look at what that means. So fixed position is this. As you see, as I scroll down, the menu stays at the top. So anywhere I go on the page, it's always there. All right, so fixed position, that's what we just looked at. Fixed header style was basic. So that means it just sits there the whole time. The other option is scroll back. So let me click on scroll back. Let me click out of this. And then one last thing I'm going to change is I'm going to change this to this setting here. I like this one more. So I'm going to save it, and you're going to see here, As I scroll down, the menu disappears. So the navigation is gone. It's just hidden. But if I start scrolling back up, well, it pops up again. So anywhere on your page, it'll start to pop up once somebody scrolls back down the page. So if they're trying to go back to the top of the page, the navigation will show up. If they're enjoying themselves as they're going down, it'll disappear. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that feature. I think it works great sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. Just depends on the site. My recommendation, keeping it fixed, basic, for 80% of websites is a great option. So let's go back and do that now. I'm going to go to edit site header. I'm going to do fixed position and I am going to do basic. So that is part 1 of this video. We've just gone over all the global styles that you can adjust for the main navigation and getting all the elements in. Now let's adjust desktop and mobile to the experience we want. So I'm clicking on desktop now. There are a few options here that we're going to talk about. First thing is the layout. This is really important. I think the layout that works the best is the one you're looking at right now. Most people understand this layout. As soon as they come to the site, they know the logo is top left. The call to action is top right. It reads like a sentence. It's very clear, very user-friendly. People know what to click on, what's accessible, all of that. But if you want other options and other things to try, you have other options. So you could see here, if I click here, it'll put the menu closer to the logo. Here, it'll be center. And then here, it'll adjust the menu and the logo. So the logo is center and the menu is off to the left. Again, all these styles are great. I think they all work really well. If you're a consultant, highly recommend this. If you're e-commerce, you could do something like this or something. I think any of these 3 options work really well. And in between that, this is probably the one I recommend the least. People often do this because they like their logo a lot and they want their logo to be very big and prominent. But to me, there's a lot of wasted space. And when you're talking about somebody visiting your website and they know nothing about you and they're just learning about you, you want to make things as easy and accessible as possible. So wasting space for the navigation is not ideal. There's a lot of dead space up here, all up in here. So I recommend any of the other navigation setup. So for now, we'll set it here and then go back. Now they have a few other options. There's this width that's full or inset. You'll see here, it just adds extra padding to the sides. Inset could work if you're trying to keep a narrow page width, but for now, I would just recommend full. So let's talk about padding. Vertical padding, element spacing, and link spacing. What are these 3 things? Let's play with it. So vertical padding, as you adjust this, how much space is above and below the elements. And I think out of the box, the 2 is great. I think 1.6 could work as well for the navigation. It just depends on what you have. Giving nice breathing room, it doesn't have to be excessive, but a bit of breathing room really helps people understand what they're looking at. If there's too little, it gets a little bit tight. This actually works in this case, but if it was too small, it could be a little bit difficult to experience. But here, if you get too much space, it starts taking up way too much real estate. So we don't want that. So I'm going to go back down to 1.6. Okay, so 1.6. And now let's go to element spacing. So element spacing is the amount of space between each separate element. So this is a navigation. This is one element. This is the social links. This is another element. This is the cart. This is another element. And this is the call to action. So it's talking about the space between here and here and here, not here. This is going to be link spacing. So element spacing, I think, can be a little bit closer. So let's go to 1.5. And for consistency's sake, I'm just going to stick with 1.6. Too much spacing gets a little confusing. It's hard to tell what is what. Here at 1.6, it's a nice feel. Now let's talk about link spacing. So this one's already set to 1.6. This is going to change the spacing between the Instagram and Facebook button. It'll change the spacing between the about and read now. So if I go a little bit closer, you'll see those, they move here, and this gets a little bit closer here. If I go further, you'll see those elements are separating. So a good balance is right now, articles and Instagram look connected because there's so much space in between this. We probably don't want that. We want something relative to our element spacing. In this case, I'm going to go to 1.2. So what I did here is I changed the link spacing to 1.2 and the element spacing to 1.8. This isn't the perfect case, but in some ways it's saying, hey, there's going to be more space in between separate elements. And then within the same elements of the same category, they're going to be a little bit closer. That gives the user a good experience overall. So those are the items we could adjust for desktop. Oh, and I do want to make one point of clarification. Earlier, I said you could change the spacing inside site styles, but as you can see here, we just adjusted them right now. So correction on that, you could adjust the spacing here within this navigation. You could adjust the spacing here within this navigation. Okay, so part 3 of this video, let's now talk about mobile. All right, so when I click on mobile here, it does take me to the mobile experience, and let's review a few things. So there are 3 options here. First one is the actual layout. This confuses me a little bit because I always thought this was a button, but basically they're saying it's the cart. So as you can see here, when I click through it, it's basically just adjusting the cart. If you're a consultant, if you are e-commerce, logo on the left, menu on the right is ideal. Now you could adjust this, you could play with this, but for the most part, again, this is a really good look and feel. The one thing I would be concerned with is it looks like there's a bit too much spacing here. This is indented a little bit too much, so I would work on that. I think it's inherent in the actual logo file. There's some extra spacing here that I try to remove, but for the most part, this look and feel is amazing. So you could come in here, play with these different options, and choose the one you like. From there, you could go to the actual overlay menu. Now, this is really nice. I actually really love this user experience and how easy it is. So you could change the alignment accordingly. So you could put everything off to the left, center, or to the right. I'm going to keep things center. And then you'll see here the link spacing, which is talking about the link spacing between about and readme. You could adjust accordingly. So you could bring things together, you could bring them apart. If you have a bigger menu, it's worth noting that this will just scroll. But for the most part, I think if we go about here, I'm going to go to 3.5. I think that's a good amount of link spacing. Now here you could adjust colors as well. What do you want the navigation to look like? So you'll see here, nothing is currently selected. So let me choose this. And you'll see that actually works really well. The logo disappeared because it's a white logo on a white background, but with the blue background, it pops up and you'll see the button here show up as well, which is really nice for the user experience. So I really like this menu and this style. I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to go back one more time so you'll see that go away. Now this is a big one. I personally only like this option, the hamburger menu, or if you're feeling fancy, this option. I do not recommend the plus sign, and I do not recommend the 2 lines. If you're a cool designer or you're artistic or you have a cool portfolio, props to you first of all. But second, I think these can work in that case. But for the most part, people know the hamburger menu. You don't want people confused on your website. So make it as simple as possible for them to understand what they're accessing. So here, I'm going to keep it at the hamburger menu. And just like that, let me go back to desktop. And just like that, we have designed and created our entire navigation for our site. This is, again, one of the most important spots on your website. I'd recommend not having more than 5 links up here, maybe 6, maybe 7. If you need more links up here, I highly recommend just dropping them in the footer so you could add as much as you want, but really focus on making this the best for the brand new user to give them the best experience on your site. If you want to make any further adjustments to the navigation, let's say font or colors or things like that, go to design and then click site styles. And then you have a bunch of options here. So if you want to change font or play with the color schemes or other things like that, you can do that here. And if you're looking on how to adjust the actual navigation, well, you'll do that here under pages. There are a lot of options, and I have other video content on this specifically on how to make the navigation and user experience really user-friendly. So be sure to check that out. But for this video, we are good to go. You have a navigation set up for desktop and mobile and everything in between. Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you got value from this video, hit that like button. When you hit that like button, it tells the YouTube algorithm some important information, but it also lets me know that you got value from this video. And if you did get value from this video and you want more content just like this, consider subscribing. We publish new videos every single week. Friday at 1 p.m. we post a new video, if not multiple videos throughout the week. If you have any questions, drop a comment below, but I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.